The following is a presentation of the Belly Up Sports Media Network.
Here's what's cooking on today's Sports Stove Football Show. We've got college football playoffs to discuss, recapping and previewing, as well as another NFL week and the MVP race. How's that going to shake out? That's what's cooking on today's Sports Stove Football Show. Welcome into an all-new edition of the Sports Stove Football Show, presented by Righteous Felon Jerky, Pet Friendly Box, and Vid Angel. I'm your host, Vince Stover, joined as I am every week by my dad, Dale Stover. Dad, how you doing?
Doing good. Like I said, things are getting exciting here coming down in football. So,
yeah, and it's a Thursday night. Typically, we're here on a Wednesday night, but with Christmas and everything else happening, we took a quick breather, and now we're on to a Thursday night episode, of course. And we're going to start off talking about college football. And man, did we get through. Some people thought a very uninteresting first week of the playoffs. I still think it was rather interesting, and the amount of people who viewed it seems to make it look like everyone thought it was interesting as well. Not really a whole lot of close games in round one. Texas beating Clemson, which we anticipated. Penn State beating SMU, and Notre Dame beating Indiana. Tennessee getting absolutely stomped by Ohio State this week as well. Your takeaway from the first round of the college football playoffs?
well, like I said, I think it's good to involve more teams in it and be interesting moving into the next set here and see, because I don't think the favored teams maybe will all come through like they did this time. But, like I said, it wasn't necessarily real close games from there. But I think it's good to give, teams, more teams a chance, and we'll see in a year or two, how that shakes loose. But I think it'll be interesting. The next set here, if all four of the higher ranked teams do go through, which I would not expect, then we'll see where we come up with the national championship game here. Should be interesting.
Yeah, all these people going off during that round one, those round one matchups, saying, well, Ole Miss should have been in, Alabama should have been in, on all these complaints about it. And the reality is no, they had the right teams. I think Miami maybe could have had an argument when you look at SMU possibly, but at the end of the day, they had the right teams. They were the teams that earned their way into the playoffs. And you can say, well, they had too easy of a schedule. Well, that's not, kudos to them. Schedule your games differently. It's okay. Everything is fine. Round one, we didn't get any upsets. We didn't get any, super compelling games. But we got playoffs, and we saw teams that had an opportunity and didn't take advantage of those opportunities, and other teams who had opportunity and did take advantage of those opportunities as well. And now they go into the second round. Now, what's intriguing, though, Dad, is 3 of the 4 games coming up are the road team is the favorite. So in round one, it was this home field advantage. In round two, it's a neutral site games. But all of the lower seeds are not only Texas is a 13.5 point favorite. Penn State's an 11-point favorite. Ohio State's 2.5 points. And then Notre Dame is a 2-point dog against the Dogs of Georgia. So what's better? Is it better to get an extra week of rest, or is it, or does that build up some rust on the teams? We talk about this in the NFL all the time with the bye weeks. Major League Baseball, we do the same thing. Now you've got these teams in Oregon, Georgia, Boise State, and Arizona State who've had some layoff, and you had other teams that came out and performed well just last week. Do you think that we're going to see maybe a run by these teams that haven't had as much time off because they're not going to have any rust to break off at the beginning of the game?
I don't know. I think some of the teams that are favored there, will definitely have a good chance to win. I don't know if it'll be because the other teams are rusty necessarily. They've had more time to prepare that way. And So I don't know. And again, they're playing what, week and a half after the other game, so there's a little bit of time there also. Like I said, I think, even after this first year, as we evaluate it, it'd be interesting to see if they make changes. I think it's better by far to have more teams in it. I think, in a couple of years it'd be easier to see a pattern maybe than what we have, what we can determine from this year. But I'm looking forward to all these. Should be good football games, even though some of those teams are kind of highly favored. And it is neutral site, so it's a little different. The first round being, having home teams, that definitely, I think that was an advantage, no doubt about that. These are neutral site games, and even though they're in some of the teams' regions a little more, I don't think it'll be quite the same.
Yeah. Well, let's break it down a little bit. We've got a game Tuesday night and then 3 games on Wednesday. So Tuesday night, it is going to be Penn State and Boise State. Penn State coming off a huge victory over SMU. They're the runners-up in the Big Ten. Boise State gets in here. They've had a great year. They had a running back that was the runner-up for the Heisman Trophy. Now they're playing in the Fiesta Bowl as 11-point underdogs. I don't understand the seeding if the second round is going to be double-digit favorites by the lower-seeded teams. But nonetheless, that's the way it works out. So Penn State, 11-point favorites against Boise State in the Fiesta Bowl. What are your feelings about this matchup on Tuesday night?
Well, I'm to be honest with you, I don't know a lot about Boise State outside of they got the really good running back. I didn't see them play a lot. You brought up a good thing about, the seedings or whatever. Would SMU and Boise been a better game for the first weekend? Right. Coming into Penn State's been a good team all year, and they're in the Big Ten, and they're good. But again, I think Boise State is there for a reason. So it'll be interesting to see. I don't know enough about Boise State to know, where this is going to be. Do they have enough defense to be able to, hold Penn State down? Obviously, they have offense. There's no doubt about that. And so, it'd be an interesting matchup. It'd be nice if all these games are close. Again, Penn State's a pretty heavy favorite here, so we'll see.
Yeah. You look at this, you got the quarterbacks' numbers are all relatively similar. The SMU quarterback, Madsen, he doesn't turn the ball over. But Aller really doesn't either. I mean, he's got 7 picks to 21 touchdowns. Madsen for Boise has 22 touchdowns to 3 interceptions. And Aller has more yards on there. But, of course, you go to Ashton Genty, and the guy has just under 2,500 yards rushing this season to go along with 29 touchdowns. That's dominant. And so, obviously, Penn State is going to try to sell out, I would assume, to stopping the run. But you've got some guys out there for Boise State that have had good years when you look at the receiving numbers and things like that, too. So they're not a one-trick pony, but they definitely have this powerhouse at running back as well. So I'm intrigued to see kind of how it shakes down. They spread the ball around pretty well when they pass the ball. They got 2 different receivers, and Cameron Camper and Latrell Caples. And then their tight end, Matt Lauder, has a fair amount of production this season as well. Actually, he's their leading touchdown getter for receivers also. So I'm hoping it's a lot closer than an 11-point game. I would like to see Boise State win this. I think it'd be great for Boise State, be great for Ashton Genty, who I think still should have won the Heisman Trophy. But that's just my opinion, of course. So, yeah, I don't know. I'm with you as far as picking the game goes. It would just be a pure guess at this point for me. But I obviously like Boise better than Penn State. So I'm hoping that they get the win there. Wednesday is the trifecta, and it's starting off with Texas and Arizona State. They're playing this game in Georgia at the Peach Bowl. Texas is a 13.5-point favorite over Arizona State. And, Dad, I'm just sitting here going, it just make sense. I mean, good night. If they're going to be number 4, they shouldn't be a 2-touchdown favorite to the number 5 team. But that's what they are. And we know a little bit more about Texas because, well, they've got Quinn Ewers, who's had a good year. And then if he struggles, they're just throwing in Archie Manning. So they've got 2 quarterbacks that can play. A very good running back. They've got incredibly talented wide receivers as well. Arizona State comes in as far as you and I go, a little bit more of the unknown. They're in the Big 12 and winning the Big 12 this year. They're 7-2 in the conference, 11-2 on the season. And I don't know, Dad. I just come in here in Texas. I came into the beginning of the year saying Texas and Ohio State. And so I'm not going to back off of that now. But again, I do know more about Texas than I do Arizona State. So I don't know. What are your thoughts on that game?
Yeah, I think, I watched Arizona State play a little bit in the last couple of games, and they do have a good team. There's no doubt about that. But I think Texas is one of the better teams in this whole tournament. Yeah. No doubt about it. So, it's going to be a power there. They're playing, in the Peach Bowl, which would be where, SEC schools would play, even though Texas is not, as traditional in that maybe market as other schools have been. But Texas is going to be a load, I think, for anybody to handle. But Arizona State, I think what I saw of them, they've got a good team. I think maybe it'll be closer than what the line is there. And again, Texas has had their moments when they haven't looked all that good. So I think Arizona State, will be ready to play. Again, they're in a bigger conference. They've played some better teams. So we'll see how it goes. But I think Texas is definitely the favorite in this one.
All right. The Rose Bowl will be next up, 5 p.m. on the 1st on Wednesday. And it's Ohio State and Oregon. And I'm sitting here going, why is Ohio State favored? It's only 2.5. It's not like it's massive favor, but they faced off earlier in the season at Oregon. Oregon wins by 1. Now they're playing at the Rose Bowl, which, Ohio State fans are going to travel, but that's still advantage Oregon there, you would think. And Oregon's undefeated. They've yet to lose a game. Why are they the number 1 team in the nation and an underdog in the playoffs? Makes zero sense to me whatsoever. And Ohio State's been good. And I said at the beginning of the year, I thought they were the second best team in the nation. They haven't played that way throughout the year. They played great against Tennessee. But, man, Oregon's going to be extra motivated coming in as the underdogs in this one. Just the disrespect that's thrown at them is wild. Your thoughts on Oregon, Ohio State?
Well, this will by far be one of the best games to watch from there. Again, living here in Ohio, I've seen a lot of the Ohio State games, and they are just very good. Again, they did lose the one game to Oregon. It was at Oregon. It was close. They looked so impressive last week against Tennessee. And of course, they stumbled at the end of the year, against Michigan.
Right.
But they've had some games. They have talent up and down the line.
Yeah.
Their quarterback may not be the best quarterback of the bunch, but he knows how to handle the situation. No doubt about that. They're strong at running back. They're always strong at wide receiver. Very good at defense. That guy to safety Downs is really, really good. And, there's a lot of them there. So I'm not surprised in some way that Ohio State, again, you talk about the Rose Bowl, the history is there. The Big Ten has always been in the Rose Bowl, and, they've gone out there and played well. And so I don't think, that will be a problem at all. Oregon, again, is undefeated. So this is their chance to show, hey, we're the number 1 team. But I think this is where you'll really see as a playoff good. Because if Ohio State can win this, then, hey, playoffs the way to go. You give a team a chance, to come back and win again. So we will see, and this should be a very good game.
Yeah. Now they got 2 Big Ten teams in the Rose Bowl. That's a first. Even though Oregon is still hard to believe they're in the Big Ten. But All-State Sugar Bowl is the last one for the Wednesday slate of games, and it's Georgia and Notre Dame. Notre Dame is getting some respect right now. They are 2-point underdogs here to the SEC champs, Georgia. Notre Dame has been this team that you look at their schedule, you look at, beginning of the season, boy, it looked rough to start, but they pulled it together. They looked really good. They beat Indiana. They controlled Indiana, no problems there in the weather and all that kind of stuff. Well, now they're facing up against Georgia, and traditionally it hasn't been kind to Notre Dame when they're playing SEC teams in postseason. So when you see this game here, but Georgia does not strike fear. They're using their backup quarterback because their starter is out, and they're just not really striking fear right now, I don't think, outside of their just, professional level talent all across the roster. But not having that quarterback that just, intimidates you. I'm curious to see how Notre Dame comes out and reacts to it. And honestly, how Georgia plays. I don't know. I don't know what to expect from Georgia this week. Dad, what are your thoughts on that game?
Yeah, I mean, Georgia, of course, a great program and everything there, well coached. But like I said, they don't have their quarterback. It's a little hard to see how they'll come out and play. Notre Dame has played really well in some games, and I really like their coach. I think he'll bring them in at the right mindset. From there, I don't think they'll be intimidated at all. And this could be a really good game. I came into this thinking Georgia would be one of the better teams in this, but like I said, without their quarterback and some different things, you don't know. Again, Kirby Smart, they've been there. They know how to do this. They know how to be ready for big games. Of course, in many ways, maybe Notre Dame does too. Again, they haven't played the same schedule, but Notre Dame, has really been, really done well when they play well. Has been, just can't think of the word I need there, but they're explosive. They can be explosive, and again, if they can get up on Georgia and stay there, again, I've been impressed with their coach and just kind of the way he's handled himself and seems to handle the team in the situation. So this could be a good game also.
Yeah, it could be for sure. All right, any other thoughts college football related before we switch gears to the NFL?
No, we'll see. Next week we'll have these games done probably by the time, it depends if we're on Thursday night again next week, so we'll see.
All righty. Let's switch gears now over to the NFL, and the Thursday night game is getting started, so I want to get into those picks here soon. But let's first look back at week 16 and some surprises. No, I guess most of that came in this week. I guess I forget we've already had two games played this week. So let's talk about the two games already played this week. Chiefs and Steelers. Chiefs absolutely dominate that game. There's still all the complaints about, the officials and all this kind of stuff. But at the end of the day, the Chiefs did what had to be done. They clinched the 1 seed in the AFC as well. Did that game against the Steelers change your mind when it comes to Pittsburgh or Kansas City, or everything else just kind of rolling the same?
I think in many ways it's the same. This was a big win for Kansas City because they can get healthier, hopefully now, before they get into the playoffs. Pittsburgh has done well this year, but when I looked at their schedule about 2 or 3 weeks ago, and I mentioned, they're going to have a tough schedule here at the end. So, at this point, they haven't been able to survive that. So we will see. They're in the playoffs, no doubt about it. And I think they've had a great year for where at the first of the year where you look like maybe they were going to be. But Kansas City has been able to handle almost every situation, and they were able to in this one. And I think for them, the bye and even maybe not being pressured as much next week will probably be good.
Yeah. The other game was an embarrassment, Ravens and Texans. And I just want to quickly complain about having a Wednesday game on the same week as the fantasy championship, because their reports came out, Wednesday, that maybe Anthony Richardson wouldn't be able to go on Sunday, who I was planning on playing. And then I had to throw in CJ Stroud last second. That did not turn out well for me. Then today, CeeDee Lamb gets shut down. He's out for the rest of the season. That impacts some things too. It would be nice if maybe we have these announcements before the first game of the week so we can be ready to go for our fantasy lineups for the championship week. But whatever. Texans get stomped. They get the safety, and that's it. Ravens absolutely dominate this game. CJ Stroud, there was this argument last year that, man, the Panthers screwed up by taking Bryce Young. They should have taken CJ Stroud. This year, CJ Stroud is not that big of a separation from Bryce Young. I still think he's better, but he's still not that big of a separation from Bryce Young. And maybe the Panthers aren't regretting their decision quite as much as they were last year. That Texans-Ravens game, Dad, just a surprise in my opinion.
Yes, yeah, it was. I'd actually picked the Texans. I thought they might, but Baltimore has established themselves here at the end of the season. They're going to be a tough out in the playoffs, no matter where they hit off. They've gotten better and better and stayed more consistent. And like I said, they just handled the Texans. The Texans, though, have struggled. Would the Texans be in the playoffs if they were in a different division? I don't know. Again, they're in it.
If they were in the NFC South, maybe.
And they've had some injuries this year, no doubt about it. But everybody has injuries, and you have to play through that. So, to me, the impressive thing was Baltimore. I mean, they look like they are playing the way you need to play at this point of the season, no doubt about it.
Definitely. All right, well, let's get into our picks for this week. Like I said, the Thursday night game is off and rolling. Seattle is in Chicago. I don't think, even had we been peeping at the score, I don't think it's going to change our opinions on who we're picking in this game. I would not think. I'm going Seattle tonight, Dad. How about you?
Yes, I would go with Seattle also. Chicago just not good. Seattle still got some things to play for. So I think Seattle should win this one.
All right. Now let's move on to the let's see here, Saturday night game. We're doing all the primetime games this week. So Saturday night is the Cardinals at the Rams. Cardinals eliminated from the playoffs this last week, and now they're trying to play spoiler to the Rams, currently in first place in the NFC West. How do you pick that game, Dad? Cardinals, Rams.
I'm going to go with the Cardinals. The Rams have just been so up and down to me. Now, again, they've got a chance to win the division here and to go on there, but Arizona has had their moments when they've played well. And again, the Rams just have not convinced me that they're going to come out and be solid every week. And so I'll go with Arizona in this one. Won't be surprised if the Rams win, but
I need Marvin Harrison to score about 70 with the way that CJ Stroud did me wrong in fantasy and CeeDee Lamb out. I need Harrison to go off this week. But I'm picking the Rams to win this game. I think they're the better team. And again, they've got something to play for right now, and they've got to win, especially if somehow Chicago pulls off the feat. That'll be great for them. But if Seattle wins tonight, Rams got to keep winning, right? So I got the Rams in that one. Sunday night is the Falcons and the Commanders. Commanders need a win to clinch a playoff spot. Atlanta going with Michael Penix still and trying to figure some things out there that they've not been able to figure out just yet. Are you going Washington or Atlanta on Sunday night?
I'm gonna go with Washington in this one again. They have a lot to play for. Atlanta does too, but I think Washington's just a better team at this point, and they're at home. So I'll pick Washington.
Yeah, I'm with you. I got Washington also. And again, it's a big game for both teams. Atlanta has to win. The Commanders don't have to win, but the way they've been playing has been so good. We'll talk about that more in just a few minutes when we look at the playoff picture. But I got the Commanders here also. Then Monday night, going back to the beginning of the season, you would have thought this would have been a great game. The 13-2 Detroit Lions versus the 6-9 eliminated from the playoffs San Francisco 49ers. My goodness, at San Francisco, still it doesn't seem to matter. Detroit's a 3.5-point favorite. How you feeling about Detroit and San Francisco?
Yeah, I mean, Detroit's still trying to be sure they get locked up with the number one seed. And they've had a lot of injuries, but boy, they just keep playing. San Francisco, doesn't have anything to play for.
Yeah.
And it's been a disappointing season. And Detroit seems to be able to keep rolling. So I'll pick Detroit in this one.
Yeah, I'm going with Detroit also. It just seems like the easy pick right now. Yeah, it's wild. Wild how bad 49ers have been this year. Even with, they've had injury issues, but they've still had really good players on the field, and the defense really let them down this year too. So, yeah, I'm going Detroit this week also. All right, so we got 2 more games to pick, Dad. Who's going to be game number 5 for you?
Again, I've had a pretty good year with my picks, so I'll try to stay kind of safe, and I'm going to go with Buffalo at home over the Jets. The Buffalo needs to keep winning, and the Jets are just, they're a mess. And so even though this is a division game, I'll pick Buffalo.
So yeah, I mean, I think that's a good pick. Here's what gets me with that is, first of all, they really don't need to win. They're pretty much locked in as the 2 seed. The Chiefs have clinched the 1 seed. I guess technically if they lost both of their last 2 games, they could fall out of that 2 seed, but highly unlikely. And so anyways, I stayed away from that game because this game is one of those, weird games that for whatever reason maybe won't matter to the Bills as much as you think it should. And so I did not pick this game because you never know with the Jets if they show up for a game or something. So probably a safe pick for you, but I'm still not going there. I went with what I thought was a safe pick as well, Dad. I went with the Miami Dolphins over the Cleveland Browns. The Browns are just so bad. It looks like their 3rd-string quarterback will be playing again. The Dolphins haven't been great, but they're better than Cleveland. Even though it's in Cleveland, I feel pretty comfortable with this one. I'm going Dolphins over Browns on the road. How do you feel about that game?
That was one I considered. But again, with it being at Cleveland, on the road and the weather there, I just thought I'd go a different direction on both games. So,
all right, game number 6 for you this week. Who you picking?
I will take the Eagles at home over the Cowboys. That's got to be safe. I mean, I know it's a division game, but Dallas, there's all kinds of problems in Dallas. Philadelphia, they do some interesting things every now and then, no doubt about it. But I just feel like Philadelphia will come out and really, really dominate at home on this one.
So you're putting all your eggs in the Kenny Pickett basket this week?
That's it.
Okay, Kenny Pickett seems to be in line to start this week for Philadelphia with Jalen Hurts still in concussion protocol. There's potential Hurts could play, but right now it's looking like Kenny Pickett. And that's why I stayed away from that game, because who knows what's going on in Philadelphia right now. I went with a game, Dad, that I knew you weren't going to pick. And I'm kind of disappointed, quite honestly. I'm going with the Green Bay Packers this week in Minnesota, at Minnesota, as a 1-point underdog, which tells me that Vegas says Green Bay is going to win this game. So I'm going to go with Green Bay in this game against Minnesota on the road. This is a big, big game. Right here for the Packers, and I think it's one that they need to win just as a confidence builder for the playoff run they're about to make. And getting this win would be massive. So I'm going to go Green Bay this week on the road in Minnesota. Give me your thoughts about that game.
Yeah, well, in the regular run pool, I picked Green Bay in this one also. This will be a very very interesting game, but I think Green Bay could really show people that they're going to be something to contend with here in the playoffs. Minnesota, though, is just every week I keep thinking they're going to lose, and they pull these games out. This is at Minnesota. It's a very tough place to play. I've got friends that are Viking fans, and I remember I asked them, so who is your biggest rival, because ours technically is the Bears and everybody, and they said, oh, the Packers. It always has been. And so it's always been that way with Minnesota. They do have a good coach. I think maybe, Coach LaFleur, so far he's been able to design things every week. And I don't see why it'd be any different this week. We've got some defensive guys that are going to be out, but our defense, we did play a third string quarterback last week, but it was the first shutout in the NFL this year. So that, the defensive coordinator, I think, will have everything ready for this one. And if he can hold them down to a decent score, I don't see why we won't be able to score on them, even though Minnesota's got a good defense there. I think the offense is clicking. Josh Jacobs has really been a force. The offensive line has been playing well. And if Jordan Love was very impressive last week with the way he took checkdowns, didn't take chances, and, they're going to get the big plays to open up. So I think the Packers will win this one. I definitely hope they do. I don't know, it could change things in the seedings. I'm not sure the Packers will be the 5th seed, even if they beat Minnesota here, depending on what happens, with Detroit the next week. But, I do think the Packers will win.
Yeah, you look at Josh Jacobs, who's had such a great year, and he got a lot of rest this last week. He didn't play the fourth quarter. I'm not sure how much he played in the third quarter. He got a lot of rest this last week as they dominated there against New Orleans. So, intriguing. It's an interesting game for sure. And I think I said it's more so about just the mindset of knowing that you can go in and beat these guys. Having your losses be to the Vikings and the Lions and the Eagles, you need to win one of these games to help that confidence going into the playoffs. All right, let's take a look at the rest of the games going on this week. Titans travel to Jacksonville. This is a battle for draft position. They're both 3-12 in the year. The Titans, a 1-point favorite in this game. Mason Rudolph back at quarterback for Tennessee. Mac Jones, of course, in Jacksonville. This is a game that we will not watch, nor do we really care about, quite honestly, other than where things end up in the draft order. Your thoughts on Titans Jags?
Yeah, I'm going to pick the Jaguars in this one, but there's, really no good reason. Both teams are not very good. And, like you said, we talked last week, people messing their draft spots up. One team did that last week, and somebody's going to if they win this one, or even if they tie. So we'll see.
Yeah, you told us last week you don't see any chance for these guys winning another game, and now here they are playing each other again. Yeah. So somebody has to win.
That's it
for sure. Panthers travel to Tampa. The Panthers have been playing a lot better football as of late. Tampa in desperate need of a win. They are at home in this one, and they're 7.5-point favorites. Tampa Bay, Carolina, your thoughts?
Yeah, I'll pick Tampa because they're at home. But like you said, Carolina has surprised some people. Tampa should have been able to just roll right in to win the division, and they didn't. So you never know what's going to happen there. But I think the safe pick is Tampa. But, I don't know how that game's going to go. They probably have a lot of motivation because, again, I'm not so sure Atlanta's going to win their game. So we'll see.
Again, teams that can ruin their draft stock. The Raiders at 3-12 are playing the Saints at 5-10. If the Raiders want their choice of quarterback, they really need to lose this football game. But the Saints are not going to make that easy because the Saints are not good either, Dad. Typically, I would pick the Raiders in this game, other than the fact that I'm not sure they want to win this game. So what are your thoughts on Las Vegas and New Orleans?
Yeah, Raiders really messed their draft thing up last week, no doubt about it. But I'm going to pick New Orleans just because they're at home. And, I think their defense, I'm not sure that, they're going to score, though, a whole lot. So
yeah.
This game won't be one that'll keep you riveted to the TV.
Yep. Let's see here. You said Eagles over the Cowboys. I didn't talk about that one. I don't know, Dad. If Kenny Pickett's starting, I'm not sold the Eagles are going to win that game. That being said, CeeDee Lamb's out. That hurts the Cowboys for sure as well. man, that's just it's
As
gonna be
lo-
a tough watch as well.
as long as the quarterback can hand it to Saquon Barkley,
You would
I
think
don't
it'd be
think it's
fine.
going to matter who.
You would think that would be true. The Colts traveled to New York. New York currently sitting in first as far as draft order goes. The Colts 7-8. Their season is a wrap. Some question about the quarterback there in Indianapolis, Anthony Richardson. Will he play? Won't he play? Does it even matter? Colts and Giants. What are your thoughts?
I picked the Colts in this one again. Be a shame if New York, messed up their draft with a game like this, but you never know how well the Colts are going to play either. But I'll pick the Colts even though they're on the road.
Yeah, once you look at this schedule for this week, you realize there just aren't that many good games. Atlanta, Washington should be because there's a lot to play for there. Panthers and Bucks could be a good game, just depending on how the Panthers come out. Packers, Vikings, of course, and then the games Saturday are all relatively decent. Let's see, we didn't talk about Broncos, Bengals. Dad, Broncos, Bengals Saturday afternoon. The Broncos, they got to be careful here. They don't want to slip away and lose their playoff spot. The Bengals are playing some pretty good football right now too, though, Dad, and they're in Cincinnati. Which way you leaning there?
Yeah, this could actually be a pretty good game. They both have stuff to play for. I do think I picked Cincinnati because they're at home and I think they're playing better. I've been for Denver, but Denver lost one they shouldn't have lost, and now they could be in trouble. So, but Cincinnati is definitely playing better, and they're at home. But again, Denver can go on the road and do well on their defense. But to me, the Bengals' strong point is their offense. I mean, they've got the quarterback, they've got the wide receivers, and been playing well. So I'll pick the Bengals.
Yeah, the Bengals have to win this game to keep their playoff hopes alive. Yeah. If they beat the Broncos this week, they play the Steelers next week. The Broncos play the Chiefs next week. And if the Bengals win out and the Broncos lose out, I believe the Broncos get in over the Bengals get in over the Broncos based off of the head-to-head matchup. So this is a must-win for both teams, really, in my opinion. Chargers are facing off against New England in New England. Chargers 4.5-point favorites. And this one, another team that really, they don't have it wrapped up yet. This is a game that they really need to win to take care of it. They get the Raiders next week, so they think the Chargers are making the playoffs. But can they beat the Patriots this week, Dad?
Yeah, the Chargers need to win this one. And again, the Patriots don't need to mess up their draft pick, so we will see. The Patriots have, played better in some ways. You would think the Chargers, if they're going to be a playoff team, then they ought to be able to go in there and handle this. And we'll see. I'll pick the Chargers, but you just don't know.
Yeah. I mean, so the Bengals, the Dolphins, and the Colts are all the ones that are sniffing at the heels of the Broncos and the Chargers. Of those teams, I don't count the Colts. I just don't think they're going to make it. But Dolphins and Bengals could both win out. And if you're Denver and Los Angeles, you just got to get one of these games here to secure your spot in the playoffs. So we'll see how they do this week with those. In the NFC, the Washington Commanders are a win away from clinching. The Rams in first place in the West by a game. And then Atlanta and Tampa are tied in the South, trying to figure out who's going to clinch that spot. So the winner of the West gets in, the winner of the South gets in, and everything else is pretty much locked up. Technically, Washington still needs to win to lock it up. But, it's a wild race down to the end right now. And I can't say Atlanta and Tampa, that's not super surprising. But to say it's the Rams and the Seahawks fighting with the Cardinals and the 49ers out, that's a little bit more surprising to me how the NFC West has shaken out so far this season.
Yeah, that's very true. And like I said, it's going to come down to the last week for the seedings for sure. We may know who's in by the last week. Probably won't in the AFC, but the NFC may. But again, the seeding is still going to be up for grabs in a lot of ways there. Again, I don't know how much difference it's going to make totally. It will a little bit, I guess, depending on who the number 2 seeds are. So we'll see.
Yeah, the matchups is what you're looking at when it comes down to it there, because Detroit currently in the lead for the first round bye, although that's not clinched up either. So with that, you're looking at Minnesota. Well, no, you're not, because you're looking at the division winners hosting games. So Philadelphia, Los Angeles, and Atlanta or Tampa, whatever it may be, just, man, it's going to get weird. And these matchups are going to be really interesting come a couple weeks from now as we look at that as well. The playoff race is not the only race going on right now, though, Dad. The MVP race is hot and heavy. And right now, the front runners for the MVP, Josh Allen, is currently the front runner. Lamar Jackson is in second, and Saquon Barkley in third right now. And you look at the stats, and Lamar Jackson, stat-wise, is the guy that makes sense. He's had a phenomenal year again, 67.9% throwing, 3,955 yards, 39 touchdowns, 4 interceptions, and 852 yards on the ground with another 4 touchdowns there. He does have an extra game under his belt from Josh Allen, so after the week is done, we can go back and compare again. But Josh Allen currently 63.8% completion, 3,549 yards, 26 touchdowns, 6 interceptions, and then 514 yards rushing with another 11 touchdowns there through the ground. And then Saquon has been the best running back, the best non-quarterback without a doubt this season. He's at just over 1,800 yards, 13 rushing touchdowns, 2 receiving touchdowns as well. Dad, where do you lean right now with the MVP race? It looks like it might come down to the final week.
Yeah, it will, and it kind of goes back and forth. I've kind of thought Saquon Barkley would be the guy, I would probably vote for. Then all of a sudden, Josh Allen, I said, man, you can't beat him. And then, now you've got, you've got all 3 of them in it. So this would be a very interesting vote. I would think it'd be very close. I think all 3 of them are deserving, when you look at the MVP part of it, as far as the way they affected their teams. But all 3 of these players, on the field are head and shoulders above a lot of the rest, the way they can affect the game. And, the 2 quarterbacks, they can both run, they can both throw, and, have proved that. And they're the main players on their team. But like I said, Barkley has really led his team where they're going also. So I don't think you'd be wrong with any of the 3. I think we'll have to wait and see how the last 2 games play out. And probably whoever has the best game at the end may win.
Yeah, well, I mean, they've all got easy matchups for the last and final game. Let's see here. Saquon be playing the Giants. So there you go. There's a lot of storylines there again. Then you've got the Ravens are playing, I lost it. The Browns, I think. Yeah, the Browns. So that's an easy matchup. And then you've got Josh Allen and the Bills are playing the Patriots. So all 3 of them have relatively easy matchups in the last week. And I personally would vote for Saquon as well. I think just the season he had has been so special. Now he's only got, about 60 more yards than Derrick Henry. So Derrick Henry's had a great season as well. But it just seems like the things that Saquon has done, I mean, his old team let him go and thought they were going to do the better move by doing that. He shows up in Philadelphia and just dominates. All 3 of these teams have good records. Baltimore at 11-5, the Bills and the Eagles at 12-3. So their teams are winning games. I agree that they're all 3 deserving, but I would personally vote for Saquon just because I think every now and then you got to do something different than the quarterback. And I think Saquon's had such a good year that it's worth the recognition here at the end of the season for him. But you'll probably see one of these quarterbacks get MVP, and you'll probably see Saquon get Offensive Player of the Year. It's typically how it seems to work out. All right, so there's our MVP thoughts for this season so far. Next week, we'll be previewing the final regular season week of the NFL season. I can't believe we're already to that point. We'll also be recapping what happened in the college football playoffs and looking ahead to the next round there also. Dad, there's a lot of things going on in the NFL these days. Teddy Bridgewater signs with the Lions this week, so he's back on the roster there. We see Seahawks placed their running back, Kenneth Walker, on the injured list. Cowboys shut down CD Lamb for the rest of the season. Netflix hosted 2 games on Christmas and had an amazing viewership, and that seemed to have gone fairly well also. So plenty of things happening around the NFL right now. And all I can think about is which coach is going to get fired when it's all said and done and who's going to be number 1 in the NFL draft. This week I did post on bellyupsports.com. Actually, today posted my draft big board with some explanation behind that as well. You can find that on bellyupsports.com, or you go to the social media and where we are at Sports Stove on Twitter. You can find the article there, of course, as well. All right, Dad. We're through Christmas. New Year's is the next holiday on the agenda, and I don't know. Any other thoughts to close out the show tonight?
Yep. I'm sorry. What was that?
You have any other closing thoughts for tonight?
No. Like I said, there's a lot going on next week. We'll have a lot of answers, and we'll be, still more questions because we'll be heading into the final part of the playoffs. So, but yeah, a lot going on. Like I said, a lot goes on in the NFL every day now with players, shutting down and different things there. And, even in college, you got the bowl games, who's going to play, who isn't going to play. Colorado coming out with the record insurance policy on their guys, so they will play. And, just new stuff happening all the time.
All the time. All right. Well, check out our sponsors. If you go to the show notes, there's more information about each of those there. Shout out to Righteous Felon. Came through for me again for stocking stuffers this Christmas. Love Righteous Felon jerky. Check them out, righteousfelon.com. Use the promo code STOVE15. And then use the link in the show notes for Pet Friendly Box. If you got a cat or a dog, great stuff there at Pet Friendly Box for you. Use the link it provided, and you'll get some discounts there. And VidAngel, a great way to make the TV family friendly again. And use that code, or just use the link, or go into vidangel.com and use the code STOVE at checkout for a discount there as well. All right, big stuff coming up. The fantasy baseball show starting up in a couple weeks, the week of January the 12th. That'll be the Belly Up Fantasy Live baseball show, and that'll be available at the we're going to show it here on the Sports Stove YouTube channel, and then we'll also have it over at the Belly Up YouTube channel and wherever you get your podcast as well. If you missed any part of this program, you can go back and watch it on the Sports Stove YouTube or on Belly Up's YouTube page, and wherever you get your podcast, you can find the Sports Stove football show right there as well. Follow us on social media at Sports Stove. He's Dale Stover. I'm Vince Stover. Hope that you had a Merry Christmas and hope that you have a great New Year as well. Thanks for tuning in to this edition of the Sports Stove Football Show. Until next time, we'll see you around the Sports Stove.